Good evening. This is Crash Talk. I'm Mike Harber, your host. You probably don't recognize me. I've been in court all day, and so I do clean up all right. So tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. But first, let me just say I'm not an attorney, and neither is anybody else that's on this show tonight. We're not going to give legal advice, but we are going to give you kind of a behind the scenes of how do we do what we do, and how do we work with consumers that need help. It was a suggestion that we do it this way, and that maybe one of my associates, we discuss how we do what we do. So let's, and again, it's something how our world has changed. Like I said, I've been in court almost all day today with attorneys from around the country on Zoom with a judge, and kind of amazing how we have just jumped ahead in how business and society and everything works. Matter of fact, yesterday I was with my doctor on a virtual visit like this. Didn't have to leave my home. Crazy times. I'm not sure we're ever going to go back to what we did before, and maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this pandemic has a silver lining. Anyway, so let's just jump right in. My discussion tonight is with one of my associates, Don Lathrop, and Don and I go way back. And instead of taking anything away from our discussion, let's just go right ahead and just jump right in. So, Don, we've been talking all day long, but to extend our day into the evening, so you're going to be here tonight and talk to us a little bit about what you do and what you've done, and how we work with and help consumers. And
so, right, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
And we've worked together really on and off for many years. There was a period of time where we kind of lost touch for a while. And that's interesting, even how that came about, but how we got back together. But what a little bit about your background? I mean, you're a public adjuster now. You're one of 3 public adjusters within Harber Appraisal, and you're working with consumers day in and day out. And we'll talk a little bit later of kind of what you do and how you do it. But what's your background? What were you? I had a guy that called himself an independent adjuster, and his background, I believe he sold turf for golf courses was his background. And all of a sudden he thought, oh, I'm going to go out and handle insurance claims, and started writing estimates with a computer laptop. Had no idea what it really took to repair a vehicle or how to identify damage. And so what's your background? What have you done?
My background is, man, it's way out there in left field. I started in the architectural design field, learning how to draw houses, and went to school for that portion of it.
Huh.
And then I went to work for an engineering firm, learned how to do electrical layout designs for schools and public buildings. And then I learned how to do plumbing and HVAC layouts, and worked with architectural firms and that type of stuff. I was considered a draftsman, designer. I worked under the engineers, so I got to go out there in the field and see how it was all done and experience it for myself. And
was that in the day when you were doing things on a drafting board? And
that's when we didn't really have computers too much. We used to draw everything out. We had little calluses, back there on the finger, where we actually used to hold pencils and draw those things out. Yeah. So that was the way I started. And then I got started having kids, and I decided to jump ship and go down the insurance road and sell insurance and annuities and mutual funds, and got all my licenses for that and did that for 10, 12 years.
Huh. Well, I
And
guess.
then I've always enjoyed cars and working on cars and little odds and ends and little bit of body work here and there. And then I went to work for this guy by the name of Harber and at Stroud's Auto Rebuild, and learned how to write estimates, and worked out in the shop and worked in the paint booth or paint shop and worked with the technician and helped tear down cars. And when they trusted me, they would allow me to put a bumper or two back on, headlights, aim, and mask the cars off and buff them, and every once in a while.
Huh. Well, what I remember is that you wrote estimates and you worked with customers.
Yes, that was my primary job, was to write estimates.
Wow. It's something to think back about how fast time goes by, because that was quite a few years ago.
Yeah, that's got to be 20, 24, 25, I guess about 24, 25 years ago.
And then you decided to go out on your own, and you started just going out and having insurance companies have you go out and meet with claimants and insureds that had a claim, and you would then write an estimate for an insurance company.
Right. So I bought an existing business and went out as what they call an independent damage appraiser. We would hire ourselves out to insurance companies and receive assignments and go out and inspect damaged vehicles, meet the customer, and introduce ourselves and represent the insurance company.
So I wonder how many people that are listening right now have had that experience, because I hear that all the time. They'll say, yeah, the insurance company sent a guy out here and he came to my house, walked around the car, didn't even look underneath the car, made some notes. They were here 5 minutes and they were gone. So insurance companies well, you know what? Times have changed, because they're not even doing it that way anymore. Now they'll tell people, go out and take a picture of your car, the damage, and send us a picture, and we'll determine the amount of damage and we'll send you a check.
Yeah, photo estimates.
Yeah, times have changed.
And they've got people sitting behind a desk looking at photos that a customer or an insured took and trying to decipher what kind of damage is going on, right?
The other thing too, I guess when you were working with insurance companies, there were requirements, and they gave you procedures to follow, even though you were an expert. You've been doing it for years by now, and you understood the dynamics of an accident, because when an accident occurs, there's energy that's absorbed in the vehicle. So you might see, the fender's wasted, and maybe the bumper's ripped off the car, and the hood's sitting over, there's a big old funny looking gap between the other side of the car and the hood. From your experience that that's an indication that we've got probably some pretty serious structural damage. But an insurance company, and this is hearsay for me, because I've never worked for an insurance company, but my understanding is that part of what they require is that you only write what you can see, and that you don't use your expertise to determine we've got what's called side sway, or the frame rails are pushed over, and that, but you're not allowed to write an estimate for something you can't physically put your eyes on to see.
Right. It's called photo documentation. They want to make sure that everything is visible and that they can see it in a photo. So they do not rely on I guess our expertise.
I guess there's good and bad with that. We have to make sure that a claim is legitimate. That otherwise there can be fraud. I mean, you could overestimate. You could have claims paid out that aren't legitimate. I mean, that you overstate. But I think there's another part of it, and I think this is the part that consumers need to understand. Sometimes people think that if you go out and you shop around, you get a bunch of estimates, that the insurance company is going to pay you money based on maybe higher estimates or lower estimates. Because if you went out and got 10 estimates today on a vehicle that's damaged in an accident, I would expect that you're going to have 10 different numbers. You're going to have 10 different people who are going to look at it a different way. And the insurance companies have recognized that there's a large percentage of people, especially in the climate we're in right now, that need money. And if your vehicle's drivable and you can get a check for damage, then you'll take the check. You'll pay your rent. You'll put food on the table, and you won't get the repair completed. And what people don't understand is the estimate is simply an estimate. Represents maybe 50%, maybe 70% of the real damage. So you're not benefiting by trying to take a cash settlement and not have a repair done to your vehicle, because in the long run, it's going to cost you more. You're going to end up losing more. You've been on both sides of it now. So how would you look at that?
It really depends on the insurance company. Some insurance companies want a good, accurate estimate and rely on our expertise and what we've done over the years and how we've worked with shops and identifying and our education behind that, ICAR training and so forth. Other insurance companies, I guess I don't know if I want to call the lower end or of insurance companies, but they want us to write the bare minimums. And that's it, because they know that whatever that number is, that magic number, 10%, 15%, 20% aren't going to get the repairs done. Others are going to go to a backyard shop and get a halfway job done to see it the cheapest that they can get it done. And then they know so many are going to go and actually to a real shop and get the job done. Sometimes it'll be their shop, or sometimes it'll be another shop, an independent shop. So,
I think fairly routinely, we're contacted by people that ask us, "Would you come out and inspect our vehicle and write an estimate for us?" And what I usually will try to tell people is that you don't really need us. You don't need to be spending money paying us to do something like that, when there are very good shops out there that'll write an estimate for you that aren't under contract with an insurance company. And so they'll really give you their best guesstimate on what the cost of repair is going to be. But at the end of the day, what it's really going to boil down to, no matter how good somebody writes an estimate, it's still a best guess until you've got the vehicle in the shop, you've disassembled it, you've maybe put it on a frame machine and you've measured it for tolerances. And then you can really do a blueprint of what it's going to take to put the vehicle back to a condition as close as humanly possible to the condition it was prior to the accident. And that almost segues into probably the biggest part of what we could discuss tonight. And that's because it can't be 100% restored in most cases to the condition it was before the accident. There's a remaining loss in value. And that's one of the things that we do daily. And I know you're spending a lot of time on every day, working with consumers on their diminished value claim. But what happens if somebody decides to think they're going to make money on a claim, and they take the check and then maybe think, well, we'll repair it at home ourselves? I mean, you've seen situations like that, I'm sure, where the outcome is not very good. Can you comment on that at all? Again, because you've kind of been on both sides here.
Comment on the repairs, or?
Well, what and when somebody thinks, because that's really a misconception. People sometimes really think that they're going to put some money in their pocket from damage caused in an accident. They're going to get a check from an insurance company, and they think that they're going to go out, shop around, spend all that time going from one shop to another to another. They get all these different estimates. Then they're going to try to go with the highest one. And in your experience, the insurance companies aren't going to pay out on the highest estimate. But then you still got to get the repair done. And what if there's hidden damage? What if there's damage that nobody can see? And then that's the other question, because that sometimes makes consumers really uncomfortable, because they say, we got a $2,000 estimate, but it ended up costing $4,500 when it was done. And they think there's games being played. Why does it go from a $2,000 estimate in the field to a $4,500 estimate when it's done?
Well, I mean, the shop has almost a much more perfect environment. I mean, us as damage appraisers, when we went out into the field, first of all, once there's an accident, you go out and get 3, 4, 5 estimates. You turn one of those estimates in. The insurance company is going to look at that, and if it's too high, they're going to send out an independent anyway. And of course, the independents are instructed to write only visible damage. Don't do a whole lot of speculating. And once you get those estimates written, you send them on up to the insurance company. They write a check out for that. We get a phone call from the insured or the vehicle owner, and they want to know why are there so many differences. Well, we got to wait until the car is in the shop and torn down so we could see all those damages and be able to photo those damages, document them. And then we send them all back up to the insurance company as a supplement. It's just like tearing into a wall, a structure. You're not going to see all the damage, the rot, and everything else that's going on until you get into that structure and see everything that's been bent, crunched, all the cripple zones and everything else, especially when you look at when it's pouring down rain outside and you're trying to do an inspection underneath the vehicle. It's really hard to see anything with all those splash shields that they got on those cars nowadays. Yeah. You open up a hood and now you got compressed areas where they've got all these computer modules and sensors and everything else underneath the hood, and you can't see all the crumple zones and the apron damage and all that type of stuff. You got to wait until it's in the shop and everything is removed before you can actually write a good, accurate estimate. So
we're not in the business of repairing vehicles, and we certainly don't get kickbacks or referral fees or anything like that from body shops. But considering what you just said, and for people that are listening to this tonight, my advice, and I guess I would want to know if you agree, is that you're in an accident. And instead of spending all this time and running around and because you're not going to be compensated for your time.
Nope.
So what you need is you need to choose a good shop, a shop that's an independent shop, one that's not contracted with an insurance company. Because, hey, the reason insurance companies contract with shops, they actually have a signed agreement to help the insurance companies save money on repairs. And I know an insurance company would say, well, we always only want to pay what we owe, and we certainly don't want to cut corners. But there's pressure on body shops to stay in those programs, to keep costs down at whatever expense it's going to take. And sometimes that means even hiring unskilled, untrained technicians to try to do the job. So to get into a good shop, have them write you a good estimate, and then rely on them to advise you as you said earlier, disassemble the vehicle and really begin to identify really what's going on. Matter of fact, today I had a call from a lady that has towed her vehicle to 3 different shops. And every shop she went to, she didn't know till she got there that they were on the insurance company's preferred list. They were contracted with the insurance company, and none of them would give her really straight answers on what they were going to do or how they were going to do it. They didn't even open the hood. And she just wasn't comfortable with that. Elderly lady, and was very concerned because she transports people around in their vehicle. See, even after hours, we have people calling for help. So the first thing, and we even had one of our programs that we did, one of our episodes was don't get into the second accident. And that can be your second accident if you end up in the wrong shop. Now, the insurance companies tell you if you go to their shop, they're going to guarantee the work, but we're finding that they really backpedal on that, and they make it very difficult if there's problems that come up afterwards. And they are trying to figure out ways to keep the cost down for the insurance company. So I kind of digressed a little bit, but I guess what I was asking, if you agree with just saving your time and your energy, find a shop. We can refer you to shops. There's very few independent shops that really are truly working for the consumer anymore. Probably less than a dozen that I'm aware of in the western part of the state. But again, you've been on both sides of the equation. So do you agree with that? Do you think that's the right move for consumers?
Well, I wouldn't even bother with shopping different, going around and getting 3 estimates. If an insurance company asks you to get 3 estimates and send them in, I'd say, hey, simply send somebody out to inspect my vehicle if it's non-drivable, or take it to the shop that you want to go to in the end and have them do the inspection and write the report and send it in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bother going with 2 or 3 different shops. That's a waste of time.
Yeah. They're beginning to wear you down, waste your time, wear you down. You at some point will get so frustrated with the process that you just say, hey, what do we got to do? I just need my car back.
Yep. I would agree.
All right. Thanks for your time. It's always been good. We talk all day long, every day. So this seems to be no different.
Something normal each and every day. Thanks.
All right. Until next time. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a little bit of an understanding of what we do and how we try to help people that we work with, try to be as transparent as possible. And we'll have another kind of a follow-up because we couldn't pack it all in. I don't want to let these go too long. So we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. This has been Crash Talk. Stay safe, wear your mask, and stay well. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, and please subscribe and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Let us know what your thoughts are. And you could send us questions. Give us suggestions. This suggestion to do this with one of my associates came from the outside. So let us know if there's anything that you'd like to hear us talk about. If you'd like to know and get a better understanding, let us know. Send us a message. You can also go to our Facebook page, Harber Appraisal on Facebook. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. See you next week.